give taxpayers a full accounting of JobsOhio. Can you respond to that?
Well, there's a statement, list any particular procedures that should have been done or documents that were not found. Because anybody can say anything if all they're doing is calling names. My job and the job of this office is to find the truth.
I think he's saying you're bowing to political pressure to make it look good.
Okay. You want me to say something mean about him? You'll find this all over our office. It's our mission statement. The Auditor State's office strives for clean, accountable, and efficient governments for those we serve, the people of Ohio. We are professionals. We work under objective standards, driven by numbers and facts, without regard to politics. Every day we work to achieve the truth in a smarter, streamlined government. It's an easy thing to call names. I challenge each of you to ask detailed questions about what was unprofessional or what wasn't done in this audit. Don't just report the slander.
The audit uses the word haphazard at one point for selecting. Why that word? That seems a little odd choice.
What we mean colloquially about that is random. Now, random has a specific statistical meaning. So the accountants use the word haphazard, but what they mean is we picked some stuff to look at without any particular rhyme or reason.
Are you confident that your subset picked all of the contracts that you know of or that the public knows of that were contain potential conflicts?
Yes.
That includes the recent from the Ethics Commission, which my understanding was would have covered perhaps a later period, Dave, where they found the quote-unquote potential conflicts of interest. So those were...
Our report does not list each one we went through. I do have that documentation I can share with you, Joe.
But I'm saying, all I'm asking, Dave, is that you did look at all of those too.
We looked at the ones that the Ohio Ethics Commission sent over to us. I am not speaking about any period forward. The audit period was the audit period, and it ended with the conclusion of fiscal year 2012.
Well,
Meaning that if there was a problem that occurred in August of this year that wasn't sent to us by the Ohio Ethics Commission, I'm not offering any opinion about that time. We looked at the Ohio Ethics Commission list.
But just examine again during the audit period. I mean that clock stopped June 30th of 2012.
Right.
So if there's one of those potential conflicts would have been July 1st of 2012.
If the Ethics Commission sent it to us, we looked at it anyway.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But beyond what the Ethics Commission sent us, our testing only was through June 30th.
Okay. But you looked at everything in the Ethics Commission?
We did.
All right.
The audit mentions that there was roughly $14 million in non-payroll expenditures. What kind of buckets did that fall into? What sort of things were they spending money on?
What kind of buckets does
Yeah,
that
like
fall?
was it like fancy furniture or lots of travel, or what sort of stuff was it?
Well, those were unless we tested a particular expenditure, we didn't look at that. The accounting side of this was done by KPMG, right? And much of that has already been discussed publicly, and their report has been published for 12 and for 13.
Acting on a documented conflict of interest policy and having one, as you say, are two different things. I mean, there's clearly, they're saying contrary to the statement of this finding, they were required to obey board-approved policy. So are you saying that the policy they're pointing to was not in fact adequately documented or did not exist or was an honor system? I'm not following what you're saying. You say they had no policy.
They did not have a conflict of interest policy. They had a policy regarding ethical behavior. But as I pointed out in my discussion, you can behave ethically and still have a conflict of interest. The point of the conflict of interest policy is to set up a mechanism for the identification, analysis, and mechanism to deal with having a conflict of interest.
Your audit mentions that the initial information provided when it came to the conflicts was insufficient to determine whether there was a conflict, and then additional information was brought forward.
Yes.
How difficult was it, or was it difficult for you to get that additional information? And is that information that should have been provided to you up front rather than you have to go back and ask for it?
Well, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody that this hasn't been the most facile relationship the office has had. This has been a difficult audit, and you know, there's some arm wrestling along the way. But it's standard practice that once we've completed our work, we have a post-audit conference with the client. And during that period of time, the client has the ability to provide additional information or a response to our findings. Doesn't happen often, but there are times that we change what we thought we knew because of additional information. There's a time period where they're allowed to provide a response, and we're required to provide it to, which you will find in the report, a letter from Jim Bolin, the chair of the board, outlining their points of view. So the idea is to not have any surprises. The day the audit comes out, the client should know what's in it, and the auditor should know what the client's view is and have considered it carefully, and in this case we did.
So is the Bolin letter the additional information that you talked about?
No.
Okay.
That's the Bolin letter is the client response. The additional information, for example, the Smuckers, they told us it was less than 1%. Well, 1% of a large publicly traded corporation, it can be a lot. I mean, that could be sufficient to support a conflict of interest. So just saying that it's less than that, well, how much less? Are we talking about 0.98% of 1%, or are we talking about, 7 shares out of 180 million? There's a big difference there. So that information was not available to us. It didn't exist in the files of JobsOhio. But when we asked about it and they saw our proposed report, they said, well, this is de minimis. And my response was, because I was in that post-audit, show me. I need some documentation. And so they did provide that.